Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. This video is all about sleep training, what worked for Camden, my tips, tricks, and the routine that I use to get him to sleep through the night. I am a first-time mom. If you're new to my channel, I hope that you will subscribe. I hope you like this video, and this is my first baby. Again, he's 9 months old, and his name is Camden. When he was 6 months old, I took him into the doctor's for his 6-month checkup, and my pediatrician recommended that I let him cry it out, that he was old enough now to not need to eat through the night. He should have, you know, 1 bottle before bed, and then he should be good to go for, you know, the next 10 to 12 hours or however long he sleeps, that he shouldn't need to get up and eat. And Camden loved, at this point, at 6 months, to get up during the night like 2 or 3 times to eat. So I took her advice and I said, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to let him cry and see if this works. I did a nighttime routine with him, and I put him in his crib and I let him cry. He cried and he cried and he cried, and I let him cry, I think, for like 45 minutes. And he was screaming like it was like the worst thing in the world, and I was like, something's not right. Like, I'm sorry. I don't know. I made sure that he was fed and that he was changed and that he was like warm, but not too warm, and he just didn't want to be in his crib. Ultimately, that's what it was. So after 45 minutes of excruciating pain listening to him cry, you know, it was really, really hard for me to just sit there with the baby monitor. And, you know, my husband was there, and he was just like, you know, let's just watch a movie and just let him do his thing and he'll fall asleep. And I was like, as a mother, when you hear your baby cry, it's like the hardest thing in the world not to go run to them and make sure that they're okay and comfort them. So when I heard him crying after 45 minutes, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't do it. I've got to figure something else out to do. So I went in there and I held him and I rocked him, and he was like hyperventilating. He was so shooken up, so upset. He could hardly catch his breath. He was so upset. I felt so bad. I felt so guilty. I was crying myself. I was like, why would I do this to him? Like, I'm his mom, you know? And all he wanted was me, and I was ignoring him, essentially, and it was so heartbreaking and so sad. And I decided, I don't care what my pediatrician says, I'm not letting him cry. Like, if he cries, I'm going to comfort him until he figures out that he needs to go to sleep. I knew that I needed to do something. I just wasn't sure what to do. So this is where I took 2 weeks to just Google everything. I mean, I read all about all different sleep training methods, and I took notes on each thing, and I kind of just tried to combine, you know, different steps to see what was best for me and Camden. If you watched my mommy nighttime routine with my baby, that was around 4 or 5 months, I believe, and that is when he did sleep in his crib, and I would give him a bottle. I would rock him to sleep in his glider, and I would just place him in his crib, and he would go to sleep, and it was, you know, fine. And then about 5.5 months, it didn't seem to work anymore. I'd rock him to sleep in my arms and put him in the crib, and right when he touched the crib, he would wake up and look at me and realize that I was leaving and start screaming and crying, and he wouldn't stop. So that's when I knew that I needed to figure something else out. I know a lot of you all have been asking me to share this video with you, because if you've been following me for a while, you know that I had a lot of trouble trying to sleep train Camden in the beginning, and nothing was working. He hated his crib. I was doing a bedtime routine with him, but it wasn't working because his naps were so off, and I finally figured out that that was the issue. He was sleeping in his swing, having like 3 naps a day in his swing, sleeping for hours, and then when it came nighttime, he didn't want to go in his crib. He either wanted to go in his swing or sleep in our bed with us. He never was in his room. So it was like, why would I put him in his room at night when he was used to sleeping in his swing during the day? So that's why I knew that I needed to start with naps and get him used to sleeping in the crib during nap time, and then transitioning him into the crib at night would be much easier because he'd be used to being in his crib during the day, if you follow me. While I was looking for a good sleep training routine to use, Camden was sleeping in our bed. He slept in our bed for like a month or 2. He would sleep in between my husband and I, and, you know, it was a little bit scary because at first I was like, we're going to roll over on him, or, you know, it was just, he was this tiny little human sleeping with these big humans, so it was kind of nerve-wracking, and I did get a little bit of anxiety over it, but after like a week or 2, we were kind of just used to it, and we knew that we weren't going to roll over on our baby, and we were just more confident and comfortable with him sleeping in our bed, and it was fine. But he did wake up a few times during the night, which woke my husband up, who goes to work every morning. And it was getting difficult. And then by the time he started kind of learning to crawl, I was like, okay, this is really dangerous, because now while we're sleeping, he could crawl off the bed. So finally I figured out a few different things that I wanted to try with him, and I wanted to see if any of it worked without having him cry, or without having him scream and cry for a long period of time. I knew that he would probably just fuss and cry and whine a little bit here and there, and that's normal because he's getting used to something new. So that being said, I'm going to go over exactly what I started to do. I knew that I didn't want him to sleep in the swing anymore. I wanted him to get used to his crib, so I knew I needed to start with naps. So I knew that I just needed to cut all ties with the swing. And what I did was I just stopped putting Camden in the swing. Like, it's as simple as that. One day, it was after Thanksgiving, we went away for Thanksgiving. When we came back, I never put him back in that swing. And I don't even think he really ever noticed. For naps, started on a Monday, just like, you know, first day of the week. Well, essentially, Monday's the second day, but you know what I mean. And I got him up at 9 a.m. And he would get up at all different times depending how much sleep he got the night before. So I knew that I wanted him to try to get up around the same time every day. So his naps would be kind of on schedule. So I woke him up at 9 a.m. I changed him, I fed him, and then we played for a little bit. This was like for an hour and a half to 2 hours. And then I would look for his sleepy cues. So sleepy cues could be, you know, rubbing their eyes, yawning, or getting fussy. What he does is he rubs his eyes, and I know he's tired right away. So that's something that you guys should look for. But yeah, so he started rubbing his eyes, so I knew he was sleepy, and I would just check his diaper, make sure there was no poop in there. And then I would just go in his bedroom, and I would place him in his crib. I would give him his pacifier, so I like to use the Wubbanubs. I would give him a Wubbanub and turn on his little sound machine and close the door. Make sure the lights are low or the lights are off. First nap is usually about an hour and a half to 2 hours, so let's say he slept from 11 to 1. Wake back up at 1, and then I would do the same thing again. I would change him, and then I would feed him, and then we would play. And then I would put him down for his second nap about 2 hours after that, so around 3. He would go down for a second nap. I would do the same thing. I would put him in his crib with his Wubbanub, and he would sleep for about, usually his second nap is about an hour. Sometimes it can go to 2 hours, but usually it's about an hour and a half. So he usually, if he goes back down at 3 for his second nap, he's usually up by 4 or 4:30. They say not to extend naps past 5 because then you're getting into like the bedtime, and it can kind of mess with them. So usually I try not to let him sleep past 5, but if he's really, really tired from that day or he woke up late, then, you know, I let him sleep for a little bit longer. It's fine. I have read that bedtime should be between 7 and 8. If you let it go past 8, babies seem to get overtired, and when they're overtired, it's really hard to get them to go to sleep, and then they don't have a good sleep during that night. So the best time to put a baby to sleep, in my opinion, and from what I've researched and read, is between 7 and 8. You should always have a bedtime routine because babies love routines, and it just really, really helps them, and they kind of know what's about to happen. If you have a little routine before bedtime, they know that they should be getting ready to go to bed. And routines really should last, like, I think no more than like 20 minutes. Usually around 15-20 minutes is a bedtime routine. So after Camden's second nap, when he wakes up around 4:30, I let him play for a little bit. I feed him a bottle, some food. I take him into his room around 7:15, and I put him on his changing table, and I change his diaper. I get the lotion out, and I give him a nice baby massage. I massage his whole body with his eczema cream because he has eczema, so I want to make sure he's nice and moisturized before he goes to bed. And then I put his pajamas on him, and then we sit on his glider, and I read him a bedtime story every single night. I usually read Goodnight Moon is one of his favorites, so I'll usually read that to him. If he has any bottle left, I'll usually feed him during that time while I'm reading him a book, or give him a little bit of water. And then I will make sure he's burped. That's like key. He's got to be burped or he'll get fussy. So make sure he's burped. And then I turn the lights down a little bit low. I have a dimmer on our light. And then we walk around the room and we say goodnight to all the objects in the room. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And I read that this can really help babies. So we say goodnight to his stuffed animals and just miscellaneous things in the room. We just go around and we say goodnight, like, you know, and then he kind of understands what I'm doing. Sometimes it's funny because when he doesn't want to go to bed, like if he's not in the mood to go to bed, but we're saying goodnight to all the things, he knows that he's about to go to bed, he gets really upset because he knows what I'm about to do. But usually that doesn't happen. So we say goodnight to all the objects in his room, and then I go take him to his crib and I say goodnight Camden, I give him a kiss, I place him in his crib, I take his Wubbanub, and he opens his mouth because he knows what's about to happen. I put the Wubbanub in his mouth. I do give him a pacifier. A lot of the times I've read that like sleeping props, like pacifiers and stuff like that, if you're trying to sleep train your baby, you should take those away and get rid of them because the baby's going to be dependent on it. And then if they lose the pacifier in the middle of the night, they're going to cry for you to come find it for them. But Camden can find his own pacifier. He doesn't need me. He knows where it is. So that's not a problem. So I left the pacifier with him because I wanted something comforting for him while he was learning to fall asleep. So I give him his Wubbanub pacifier, and then I say goodnight, I love you, and I make sure the lights are down low, and I close the door. Oh, and I make sure his sound machine is on as well. Turn the sound machine on, and then I close the door. So when I first started doing this, he would fuss and cry a little bit. But it was never like that full out screaming, crying like it was in the beginning. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's because he got his nice, good naps in, so he was well rested and ready for bed. I don't know if it had to do with the, you know, the bedtime routine, but I never had the issue that I had before when I let him cry it out. He would fuss a little bit sometimes, but it wasn't that hysterical cry. So, if he's fussy, I let him fuss for a little bit, and usually he'll just fall right asleep. If he fusses for more than like 10 minutes, then usually I know that he's either pooped or, you know, something's wrong. So if it's more than 10 minutes, I'll go back in and check and make sure he didn't poop. And usually he's pooped and that's why he's fussing. Or maybe I'll feed him a little bit more and then I'll try again and put him back down. But I started doing that, and I'm telling you, we do it every single day and it works. Usually Camden will sleep through the night at this point. He's 9 months. It took a couple months for him to start really sleeping through the night because in the beginning he would wake up like once or twice. I'd say in the beginning he woke up still like twice. My pediatrician told me to cut out nighttime feedings, but I feel like if he's really hungry, then I'm gonna give him some milk. So I would feed him like half a bottle. Usually I give him 6 ounces, so at this time I would feed him like 2 to 3 ounces. He would drink that and go right back down to sleep, and then he'd wake up again a few hours later and I'd do the same thing. Then it went down to like wanting to eat only once during the night, and now he rarely gets up to eat, and if he does, he kind of just drinks an ounce and he goes right back down to sleep. Sometimes I just give him some water. He just takes a few sips and then I rub his back and he'll go back down to sleep. So sometimes he's just a little fussy. A lot of the time in the middle of the night, my baby loves to poop. So if he's fussy or crying in the middle of the night, it's usually because he's got poop in his diaper. So I'll just change him and give him a little bit of water, a little bit of milk, and he'll go right back down. It does take time. It is really frustrating. But this worked for me. So again, I'm going to go over all of my tips for you guys. Get a pen and a piece of paper or get your phone and write these tips down. They really, really did help me. First things first, get them out of the swing if they're sleeping in a swing. Get them in the crib. I would definitely dim the lights, close the curtains, or completely turn off the lights and have it black if your baby isn't scared of the dark. Some babies hate being in the dark, so I would have a dim light on. Even like a night light should work. I would put some white noise on or some, you know, soft lullaby music or some kind of sound for them because that really helps babies sleep. If your baby is fine putting a pacifier in and out of their own mouth and they don't need you to do that, then, you know, I had no problem giving Camden a pacifier, and I still do give him a pacifier to this day to sleep with. For nap time, I would make sure that you have at least 2 hours between naps. You know, sometimes 1.5 if they're really tired, but I would make sure they have full bellies, clean diapers, and they've gotten a little bit of playtime in so they're tired. I would look for sleepy cues. Again, sleepy cues could be like rubbing their eyes, which is what Camden does, yawning, or if they're fussy, you know, maybe they're tired. So look for some sleepy cues, and then it's ready for nap time. For bedtime, again, Make sure it's between 7 and 8 p.m. I wouldn't go past 8 p.m., but I probably wouldn't go before 7 p.m. because it's a little too early. Of course, things can happen here and there with your schedules. You can, you know, go out to dinner or go to someone's house, or there's a holiday or whatever, and things get off track and you've got to kind of play around with them. But I'm just saying, for like your everyday kind of schedule that you do at home, I would do a bedtime routine 100%. Pick out a few things that you think that you and your baby would enjoy to do every single night together, whether it's a baby massage, reading a book, you know, saying goodnight to all the objects in the room. Just so you can even Google it. There's a lot of different like little cute things that you can do with your baby when it comes to your bedtime routine. But I would pick like at least 3, and I would do them every single night. Obviously, you should have a baby monitor so you can check on them. But again, if they are like crying or fussing more than 10 minutes, I would go in and make sure that, you know, they have a clean diaper and that they don't need anything, because maybe they need something. And I would just keep trying that every single night until they understand that it is bedtime. It is time to go to sleep. I'm not by any means a sleep trainer or anything like that, but I did do tons of research for a few weeks on it. And this worked for Camden, and I'm telling you, he was like so hard to sleep train in the beginning. Like nothing worked. That's why he slept in the bed with my husband and I. It took a while for me to really figure out what was going to work for him. So, I mean, this probably won't work for all babies. All babies are so different. But I feel like maybe some of these things could definitely help you guys out. So yeah, that is it for my sleep training routine and tips and tricks. I really hope that I went over everything. But if you guys have any questions at all, please just leave them below in the comments. I'll be sure to answer them for you. I know how hard it is to get your baby to sleep through the night. Trust me. It was hard for me, especially when I heard him cry. Oh my gosh. Oh, I'll never do that again. But whatever floats your boat, whatever works for you. It just didn't work for me. If this helped you at all, please like this video and let me know. I'll do more videos like this, just kind of like tips and tricks and like routines and things that I do with my baby to help you mamas out.